Thank you for joining us tonight. So today we decided to do a presentation talking about what it is to be an investor, as in what are the main things that one should think about being an investor, and then what are the issues or the main issues that happen most often when you invest in Portugal and you don't have all the information. So we'll just go through what we've prepared quickly. So one of the biggest things that we see with clients that come to our office is that a lot of people don't really know what they want as an investor. They don't really know if they want it for themselves. They don't really know their budget. They don't really know their timeline. So there's a lot of questions that one should ask. What really is the goal? What's the investment expectations? What are you investing for? Is it personal or is it only investment, or is it both? You really should do research, looking into different areas and looking what would be the lifestyle if it is for your own enjoyment that you're trying to invest. If not, where would be the best locations as a long-term investment? So there's a lot of questions that this might actually seem quite obvious to many of you, but believe me when I say there's a lot of people that come to us and haven't thought about these things. And this is definitely the part where one should actually spend a lot of time and thinking about it, because only you as an investor do you know exactly what you want, even if you don't know it yet. Of course, we can guide you, anyone can guide you, but unless you actually spend the time and think and research and discuss these topics and many more, you're always going to be kind of not knowing what you want, which sometimes is also okay. I actually like to sometimes, when I try to make a decision about something and I can't figure it out, I start by thinking, okay, what it is that I don't want. And then when I know what I don't want, it actually helps me understand better what I do want. So overall, this is just to give an idea of the few questions that we at Nunes Capital, we ask the clients, and many times they don't have an answer. But this is the baseline from where you should start when you are starting to look into investing, whether in Portugal or anywhere else. And I'm sure there's a lot more questions and topics that we could add to this list, but this is just to give an idea. So deciding what you want, doing your research, the budget, how you're going to be using this money, the property preference, what do you like more? Is it a land, a villa, apartment? What is your investment risk tolerance? Do you want something that's a bit safer, or are you willing to risk it? The timeline, when do you want to start? Do you want something that's ready straight away, or are you wanting to actually put in some time and make this a project, 2-3 year project? Who is going to be making the final decisions? Are you investing by yourself? Is it with a partner? Is it with a spouse? If you are on your own, that all the weight is on you. If you are making a decision with someone else, are you both on the same page? And I mention this because it is quite often that we come, let's say a couple coming to us, and this has happened a few times, and they are having conversations here with us at the office because they're not agreeing with each other, and they're both investing in the same property, but they're not on the same page with each other. So things that may seem obvious sometimes are not that obvious when you actually start to do the work. And then, of course, the exit strategy. What is your intention? What do you want to do with this? Is this a short-term thing? Is it a long-term? Do you want to sell it straight away? Do you want to hold it? So all these questions, I think they're super, super important, that you have at least a very good understanding of what your intention is. Okay, so This is the second reason, or probably the main reason, that we decided to do this webinar today on this topic, is about what can go wrong when you invest in Portugal, or anywhere else, I guess, but especially in Portugal. What can go wrong when you just don't have all the information, or you haven't engaged the right people to help you make a decision. So starting number one is with a real estate agent. I'm not sure if you know this, and I don't really know how it works in the Netherlands, but in Portugal, anyone can be a real estate agent without any qualification. So you do need to have a license and you do need to have insurance, but you do not need to have any qualification. You can be a butcher, you can be a salesperson, you can be a teacher, and from night to day, you get the license number and you become a real estate agent. And this can be super fun for a lot of people and very, very dangerous for the clients. So choosing the wrong real estate agent really is something that happens a lot. There are thousands of agents in Portugal precisely because it's so easy to become an agent. And most of them don't really know much about what they're actually doing. Most people are commission-based, so they don't make a salary. The only money that they make is from selling a house. So this makes them more brokers than actually understanding the client, understanding information about the property, what could go wrong, the legal issues. A lot of the times they don't know many of these things, but because they want to seem professional, they seem like they do know these things because they give you some answers, or they just say, oh no, everything is fine. Later down the track, we can look at that, which could not be further from the truth. If anything, everything should be looked at from the very beginning. So having the right person to advise you, someone who will understand you and what investment is, and not just wanting to sell a property, is very important. And this takes us to the second one, which is the legal issues and all the mistakes, all the documentation not matching, all the properties which might not be 100% legal, all the paperwork that one says one thing, the other says another, where the plans in council do not meet what's actually been built. There's a whole bunch of issues that are very, very common in Portugal. We've talked about this many times, but it's such a big reality that it's very important to understand that these issues are very common, and therefore prepare yourself to ask the questions and to have people behind you that will actually look for the answers of these issues. Do the due diligence, sorry, to look into these issues, because there's so many issues that can come up. The same property may be owned by many different people and they're not all on the same page, or there's a big range of issues that can happen from a legal perspective. And like the next one, the mismatch between documents and reality. We have had several cases of people, something as basic as the land does not have the same square meterage that it's registered. It doesn't match what's reality. Very recently, we had a client coming to us explaining that he had bought a property and everything was fine. He was just he was ready to start building. He had an architect, he had everything ready when they went to do a survey, a land survey of this property. And this was a piece of land which was in the middle of a development, so it's not like it's something in the middle of the rural area. This was in an urban scenario. They did the survey, the land survey, and it came back that he has extra 5 square meters on his title which are not, does not match with what's existing on site. And those 5 meters in on site belong to council, but on paper belongs to him. So how do you work this out? It's extremely complicated. And this poor guy was just about ready to actually start doing the build process. He had everything lined up for the architect, and now he's come across this issue, and he needs to resolve it because he won't be able to have a successful build and later down the track actually sell it or get finance on it if these kind of issues are not corrected from the beginning. And especially something like this, I mean, when you have on paper you own 5 square meters, but on reality council owns those same 5 square meters. This is just, it's a recipe for disaster. So that's why things like this should really be checked. Then if you are going to buy a property, something that is extremely important that we always advise all our clients, even if it's not with us, you really should do a property structural inspection, because the most common thing is for someone who wants to sell a property, they make it look really pretty. They put up some lightweight walls to cover up some really ugly walls. They paint everything. They may even get the roof all cleaned. And then it all looks all nice. You move in. A few months later or the following winter or whatever the scenario is, all these structural issues start to pop up. Another story that very recently we came across, a family bought this property and they were living there. They bought it during the summer. The following winter, which was last winter, which rained a lot here in Portugal, and mold is a very big problem here. And they could just smell mold in the house, but they cannot see it anywhere. And it was coming from one of the kids' bedrooms, and they were very worried because the children were sleeping there and they couldn't understand, but they could smell it. It wasn't visible anywhere. And we had a builder go there, and he kind of knew what was going on. He made a big hole in a lightweight wall that was in front of a structural wall, and this black fume started to leave that hole. It was completely filled with molds between the lightweight wall and the structural wall. So that just means that, first of all, it's a structural problem that needs to be resolved. Second, the previous owner didn't try to resolve the problem. They just covered the problem, and the new owner came in, bought it, and had no idea. And the renovation and the costs that's gonna go onto that new owner are completely unexpected. Forget about the fact that they have to move out of that side of the house in order to do those renovations because it's molds. It's just a massive hassle. So underestimating renovation costs, on one side, you should always do a build inspection to actually have a professional go check everything, water leaks, cracks on walls, all these things that someone who does not work in the industry might not see, but a professional can see very quickly or fairly easily. And then another thing might be, let's say you are buying a property that you know beforehand that you need to do some renovations down the track, and that's your intention. And you speak to this agent that's giving you, that's trying to sell you this house, and they give you an estimate. Oh, if you want to add another 2 bedrooms or replace the roof or this or that, oh, it's going to be around the 40, 50, 60,000 euros. And then you think, okay, I can manage that. That works within my budget. And then further down the track, you look at the works, you get a proper quote, or you get more than one quote, and then you're looking at 100-something, 150,000, because there's a whole bunch of issues that only professionals can actually see. And then old houses are like Pandora boxes. You lift the lid of an old house and you have a whole bunch of problems that you had no idea were there. So having a really proper understanding of what you are actually buying from a structural perspective, from an actual physical perspective, the quality of the build and the quality of the house or whatever it is, whatever property, even if it's a piece of land. You know, if you think that if you buy a piece of land and your intention is to build a house there later on, you should get a land sample testing done to make sure that under there is not very hard rock, which if you want to do an excavation is going to cost you 3 times what you had anticipated. So I'm just giving you ideas, possibilities of things that might happen, that for someone who does not know much about property, may fall into the traps of, okay, I'll look at that further down the track, and then you just go way out of your budget, and then yeah, that's a big problem.
If I can add something to this, Melanie, because I live now for almost 4 years in Algarve. And of course, I have some community over here, but more than 90% of the examples that you just gave, I heard about people that having this problem. So it's not, I mean, it's not to make you scared. These are just common things. And what you were saying, like there is a real estate agent that want to sell you and tell you stories that people can understand and Dutch people can understand. But even if it's your real estate agent that's helping you with the deal, it could happen that it goes this direction because of the commissions, of course, are really high.
Exactly.
So I won't stop you anymore, but I wanted to add this.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome to add. Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, it's a very big problem. There's a lot of issues that people are just not aware of. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who just want to make a quick buck. I mean, for the common day-to-day Portuguese person in a country where salaries are very, very low, if you're making a 10,000 euro commission or 20,000 euro commission gain on the sale of a house, that's like jackpot. For them, that's probably more than what they did in a whole year. So unfortunately, it's very common for the agents to just wanting to push the deal on you, and just because they want to make a buck on it and they don't care about your interests, because there is no legal responsibility onto them. So this is the main problem. They have no legal responsibility. So they can actually say whatever they want just to get the deal done. So it's very scary. It's very tricky. So the next thing is understanding bureaucracy in Portugal. So if any of you have actually spent any time in Portugal or trying to get a document done, or even just waiting at the post office in summer, you will see the delays that can occur because of just issues, structural, systemic issues that are very common within the Portuguese companies, the government bodies. Those are probably one of the worst ones, the government departments, and the bureaucracy, the amount of paperwork that you need to deliver in order to get a permit, the amount of people that you need to get signing a legal document for whatever reason. There's this, again, a big range of bureaucracy that anything, even if a small thing, can require 2, 3, 4 documents that you had no idea that existed, because in your own home country, it doesn't work that way. And then another issue is that a lot of things, most things in Portugal, are still not online. Everything is very much still done in person, on paper. And then the other element is that most of the government bodies, like we've said many times, they do not cross-reference information. So sometimes you need to deliver one same document to several different entities. And emails don't work that well, so maybe it's better if you go in person. So there's all this culture around bureaucracy that happens in Portugal that the Portuguese are very familiar with, and they know how to deal with it, and then they expect it. whereas a foreigner many times has no idea that the existence of all these issues. It can cost a lot of time, it can cost a lot of money, and worst of all, it can make you extremely frustrated. So you will never fully understand the bureaucracy or how it works, not even the Portuguese do, but just having the idea and having the understanding that, okay, from a paperwork perspective, Portugal can be very tricky. And the best thing to do is really have support, professional support behind you, people helping you and guiding you and telling you how to deal with this, how to navigate all these different avenues. So yeah, do not underestimate bureaucracy here. And then the last one that we've mentioned today, and these are just 6 of many, many common pitfalls, but these I believe are very common. And the last one I believe is probably the most the worst one from a buyer's perspective, which is signing a CPCV without proper protection. So a CPCV is a binding document that you sign with the seller, and it's prior to the deed. And in this document, this is the main element, it's the key piece to protect yourself as the buyer. With this document, generally, there's a deposit paid, and dates are set in place. So usually you already set the deed date, but the most important thing that you can do in a CPCV is, this is where if the agent or the seller is telling you certain circumstances about a house where they're saying, I can get you the paperwork that the house has a dwelling license. I can guarantee that the plans in council match exactly what's existing. Or things like, okay, we have an architectural project in plan to get the house legalized, and I promise you that this plan will be done very soon, will be approved very soon. All of these promises, all of these, okay, this will be done in the future, all of these elements need to be in writing in the CPCV for your own protection as the buyer. If you do not have these clauses, you can get very, very financially affected down the track. It really is the #1 piece of protection. It's the best piece of protection for the buyer. There aren't many laws that help the buyer. Actually, let me rephrase. There's many laws. Portugal, once again, has thousands and thousands and thousands of laws for the same thing. Sometimes it feels. So there are many, many, many laws to protect you as the buyer. The problem is the legal system has a massive delay and a massive backlog. So let's say something happens, you do a CPCV, you go onto the deed, and then you find out that something didn't work out as per the CPCV or per the deed. You go back, you try to get the previous owners to, you either want compensation or you want the problem fixed or whatever it was, whatever it is. That legal process can take years, literally years. Something very simple can take years. So this is not the place we can take you to court if there's a problem. That doesn't exist in Portugal. You can take anyone to court. Good luck. In 10 years, you'll be able to start looking at something. It's so sad and it's very unfair, but it's reality. And the best way really is to know this beforehand and have a lawyer look at the CPCV or write the CPCV for you and put all the clauses as best as possible to protect yourself. Because if anything happens or does not work in the way that it's meant to work, you can back off and you're not liable to pay or whatever the situation is. So yeah, CPCV is definitely the most important document as a buyer. Okay, so how do you get around these issues? Very simple, due diligence. Due diligence obviously costs money. You need to engage many different people. There is not one person in Portugal that can guarantee all fronts when you are investing in a property. No one person, no one professional knows everything about everything and can tell you exactly what are the risks or what are the downfalls or what are the benefits. You need several different people to help you. And it's very important that you understand that this due diligence can save you thousands and thousands and thousands down the track. So first of all, like we spoke before, as a real estate agent, someone who understands you, understands your brief, understands what the kind of investment is, understands the returns that you are wanting from your investment. And most of all, the most important probably is having some understanding of the industry itself, not being, like I was saying before, not being the day-to-day person who's never worked in this industry and all of a sudden they become a real estate agent and they think they know everything. It really should be someone who has worked in the industry for a long time. They don't necessarily need to be agents for a long time, but as long as they work in the industry, that gives them insight that otherwise they won't have. Having your own lawyer, getting legal advice, this should be done from the very beginning. Every real estate agent will suggest, will recommend a lawyer to you. This lawyer, most of the times, oh, sorry, that was my son calling. You can talk to him. So the real estate agent will bring their lawyer and they will say, this lawyer can help you and they can do whatever they need to protect your side. That's not correct. They can bring their lawyer and this lawyer can have, obviously has the ability to help you, but you should, I mean, there's a conflict of interest. You should always have your own legal advice separate to what a real estate agent is providing you. You just don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And unfortunately, there's a lot of under the table scenarios in Portugal. That's very common. So the best way to avoid you getting caught in the middle of something is looking for your own legal advice, having this person look into the paperwork that this agent is giving you, and just get everything checked out. Then the second most person is an architect. Of course, engineers are important, builders and land surveyors, and I'll get to that. But the architects is a very, very important piece here. If you are buying something that is ready to move in and the lawyer says, yep, all the paperwork is fine, is correct, then the architect may not be needed. But if you are buying something that is old, if you are buying something that needs a little bit of renovation, if you are buying something that you want to build brand new in the future, if you're buying something that you want to split a piece of land, whatever it is other than being something that is ready to move in and the lawyer has said, yeah, you can go ahead, the architect is an extremely important piece, because the architect is the only professional that has a full understanding of the legality of the building industry. So this goes to the legislation, this goes on to permits, goes on to building codes. There's a mountain of legal elements that an architect does a deep investigation to understand what is going on with the current property that you're looking at and whatever you want to do with it in the future. There's no one else that can give you this information. So even if the lawyer says, even if the real estate agent says, just get an architect to double check everything. They're very important. And I'm not saying this because I'm an architect. I promise you that this is really, really, truly accurate. Then the architect is also a really important piece, because the architect will bring you, if needed, an engineer, a builder, a land surveyor, because of the reasons that I was saying before. If you need to get a structural inspection done at a property, you need an engineer, you need a builder. If you need to get a land survey done, you need a land surveyor, engineer that the architect will get you. If you need a quote on an interior design, the architect will get you. The architect is pretty much the middleman and the middle person with everything related to the building industry. And that's why being an architect, having an architect on your side is so important, because an architect can really advise you on different fronts and can get you the professionals that you need. Okay, so moving on. Fiscal counsel. So this is also extremely important. You need financial advice on your specific tax situation in Portugal. Again, the agent can give you advice, the lawyer can give you advice, but you need an expert, whether it's an accountant, whether it's a financial advisor, tax expert, whatever it is. Each case is very specific. There's no, the categories are very vast here. So each person, each investor is very much a case-by-case scenario and has to be looked into in depth by someone who actually knows what they're looking at. If you are a resident, if you are not a resident, if you are using money from the bank, is it a Portuguese bank? If you have loan from somewhere else, where you're going to be paying your taxes? Are you going to are you going to buy a property as a company? Are you going to do it in your own personal name? There's a whole bunch of questions that are very important that only a tax accountant or an expert can help you with. And it's very, very important that you do this for your own benefit. All right, next. Okay, so now we'll just go through quickly of what New Nest Capital, how we do our due diligence. And this is our method. Next. Jaco? Okay, so we pretty much look into everything that I just spoke about before. So I'll try to go this fairly quickly, but the most important thing is that we are 4 different professionals in this company, and we have an extensive professional network. So whatever we don't know, because it's not our trade, we get people to work with us and to advise us on a professional level, and we pass on that information as is to the client. So all these topics that I'm going to talk about, there's a lot of things, and of course we are not experts in everything, but we completely understand, very much understand the importance that it is to look at all these elements when you're looking to invest or to buy a property for whatever nature. And we reach out to our partners or to any professional for that matter to get the most accurate and clear information needed to make sure that when you buy a property, you know what you're getting. So we do a tailored approach. We completely customize our service to what the client wants. We spend a significant time with the client, just trying to understand what the client actually wants. Going back to what I was saying at the beginning, we always send out a form with a whole bunch of questions, and then we have a meeting with the client. And based on the information from the form, the meeting then gives us a lot more information on the client. And then what happens many times, like I was saying before, there's a lot of things that the investor, the client doesn't know yet. They don't know exactly what they want. So we really do spend time talking to them, explaining different scenarios, showing them different options, and really trying to really put ourselves in the client's shoes, see what they need, see what they want, see what they can realistically afford, and then help them going from there. So we really start with a customized approach to each client. Then we go through, once we know the brief from the client, we go through property sourcing and selection. And we get this from both properties that are on the market, and a lot of them we get properties that are off market. So again, we work, Portugal works very much on a network basis. and we are no different. And being locals, that's probably our biggest advantage. Within every industry, everyone kind of works together. Even if they are competition, they do still work together. And with this industry, with the real estate industry, agents are very, very friendly with each other as long as they know you or they already have a previous professional relationship with you. So our network is very, very it really helps us get opportunities that are off market, and it just expands our sourcing of properties a lot. So it's extremely valuable to have that network. There's a lot of agents that are foreigners that work here in Portugal and that are foreigners. And what we find with them, because we work with many of them too, and what we find is that and this is only because they're not local or they haven't been here for long. They're very much within their bubble, their expats bubble, their foreign bubble, and that they don't have connection, they don't have access to a lot of properties that are off market. And something else that we do that we've talked about many times, we actually go and talk to people and ask if they have anything up for sale in a certain location. And you'll be surprised how many times this actually works, where people say, no, I have nothing for sale. And then they go, actually, I think I have a house, or I might want to sell that or this or that. This is very common.
Melanie, if I can add to that, I'm living in a place which is a little bit off-road, as you know. It's not a AAA location. And in my street, there is no sign of a house for sale. But I know 4 of them are.
Yeah.
So it's what you say.
Exactly. It's so common, so common. It's word of mouth. Portuguese people, especially in the Algarve, it's still very traditional in many things. And word of mouth is king on many levels. So that's how we get access to property that a lot of people just don't. So once we do have this, the selection of property, we do a property analysis. Before we present properties to clients, we already do a pre-analysis. And one of the things that I, as an architect, look straight away is, okay, what with this property seems like is not legal, because it's extremely common. Like I said before, like we've said many times before, you can have houses, up to 80% of houses which are not legal, which are not according to plan, which are not compliant with the building code. It's incredible the amount of properties on the market that do have this problem. And there's a lot of things that, when you work in the industry, and me being an architect, you can see straight away something that hasn't been built to code. If it hasn't been built to code, there's no way that piece, that garage, that whatever it is legal. So before we do the presentation to the client, we already do a pre-analysis just from looking at something. So something else that we show to our clients is the market comparables and the pricing validation. So that's in order for us to be able to say, we believe this is a good investment for you. In order for us to say that, that means that we've done our study before, and we have compared that property to others in the area, and we have the understanding of, yes, this is a good investment. No, it's not a good investment, because we actually look at the financials and the value of the properties on the market. And something else that happens, I'm not sure how it is in the Netherlands, but for instance, in Portugal, when you go on the online platforms, you have all the selling price, and most of the times the selling price, the price that a property is actually sold is nowhere near the selling price. So, but this information is not public. So someone has a property up for sale, let's say $1 million, and that property could very much have been sold at 850. And that means that the true value of that property is a lot closer to the 850 than the 1 million. But that information is not public. So how do you do a study like that? How do you know that what you're buying is actually worth the money that it's been asked for? You don't. You need the back-end information. So we have access to that information. And the good thing about the network is that the agents talk amongst themselves. And if you want to know something about a certain area, we just contact an agent that we work with in the area, and then they will give us the back-end story. So even though it may seem very number-based, the market comparables, it's not. It's actually getting the correct information of what actually something is worth and what's the value. So the next thing that we do, and this is one of my specialties, I guess, is the location and the environmental study. When you look at an advert of a property online, you only see pretty pictures, right? Only when you go to site do you actually see the real deal. Do you actually see what's actually happening? And only when you spend time driving around, walking around, and talking to the people around, do you actually have the full picture of what it is, of the environment, of the surroundings of where you're buying your property. It's very common to have a really nice looking property and right next door you have a housing commission, or you have a gypsy camp set up on the land close by, or you have this area which is used as a dump for some dodgy builders that just dump all their build rubbish there. There's a whole bunch of things that can happen that you cannot see from pretty pictures. What is the noise? Is there a lot of traffic? Is there a lot of barking dogs around? Do you have a lot of close neighbors? All these things, none of this you know unless you actually go there, spend some time there, walk around and talk to people in the neighborhood. And me as an architect, this is extremely important. All right, next one. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the way we work throughout our whole process, we always send reports to our clients with updates as we go. So all our communication is very transparent, and even if we don't have anything happening, because sometimes we rely on other people and things can be slow, we communicate to the client, look, this is happening, we're still waiting, we'll be in touch as soon as we have something. Customer service is something that is almost inexistent in Portugal. And I say this, I take this to heart very much, because living in Australia for so long, where customer service is king, moving back to a country where no one really cares about you as a client was a big shock. So that is something that we pride ourselves is being extremely transparent and always in communication with our clients. We also work on negotiation and acquisition support. So we always try to negotiate the price for our clients. And if you do go ahead with the acquisition, we are with you throughout the whole process. We work with your selected lawyer, with your selected accountant. We get in touch with any professional that you want to, coming from your side, or we can advise you if you want any recommendation. But part of our package is to be with you as your agent all the way to the end. We don't just do the sale and then just leave you stranded. We stay with you the whole time. If you want to buy something and then you want to build or do a project or do a renovation or whatever it is, part of our package is we do a project feasibility right then and there. So if that is your brief, if what you want to do is extend, is build a second house, is do a borehole, whatever it is, we look into that before and for you before you go ahead with the purchase. The legal and due diligence coordination. So like we were talking before about all the documents that might not work together, might not match. We look into all of that ourselves. And we also work with a lawyer if needed, or if you want, in that point in time, you'll always need a lawyer, but in that point in time, or if we come across something that we don't really fully understand because it's just too technical for us, we go and we tell you we really need a lawyer right now to make sure that what we're looking at is correct or not correct. So we really look into the legal sides, because that is by far the biggest problem, and what can cost you the most amount of money is the legal issues. And then lastly, like I was saying before, our network and our local expertise is really what sets us apart. We are 4 professionals. 3 of us grew up here, and we know a lot of people only for the fact that we grew up here. And because this is a very, very small environment and there's not that many people here that work in these industries, we kind of know each other fairly well. And we have a lot of network, which means someone knows someone who knows someone. We always get to someone if we need to. It's just the way it works here. So that is definitely something that we are able to get a lot of information because of that. All right. And so lastly, just this sentence. So this may seem like a lot of bad news and very complicated and very risky, but this complexity is in Portugal really is not a weakness. It's exactly where opportunity comes from, because very few people actually get the opportunities at its best because they don't do their due diligence properly. So if you do the due diligence, if you really spend time and money at the beginning, you will get the best deals. You wouldn't even cross your mind. So that's it. That's my presentation.
Well done.
Yeah, really, really good. And I think we're going to jump into the Q&A in a moment. Again, if you like to have a one-on-one, not just a Q&A in the group, but a one-on-one, you can schedule a strategy call if you're looking at this video later on, because we're going to record it, of course, not the Q&A part, which is almost even more valuable than the presentation that we do. So next time, be there live if you watch this back, but if you watch it back, there will be a link under the video, and then you can plan your strategy call. I want to dive into the Q&A, but not before we introduce Miguel, of course. And Miguel, you have been hearing Melanie saying that it's really important, it's fantastic important to have architect next to you. First question for you, is it true? And then please introduce yourself a little bit.
Hi guys, my name is Miguel Vergunningen. Well, I have to say, yes, it's important because I'm married to her, right? So that becomes a problem. No, but it is important to have an architect, because it's so complex here in terms of legality. And rules and regulations and areas where you can build and all of it, that you need an architect. There's 2 people you really need. You really need a really good architect and a good lawyer,
And
well, tax agent or an accountant, of course. But in general, let's say when you talk about just construction, I'm a builder, by the way. That's what I do. I'm a builder. I was a builder in Australia. My family, they builders here. I also have a building company. So yes, for a builder in Portugal, the first thing you need is a good architect, a good lawyer. I have to admit, because of the complexity of the legislation, and it's always changing. You don't know, and nobody knows, right? We're talking about, you have to be constantly checking. I mentioned this before, and last year, the year of 2025, we had 2,000 changes into the law, in the building code. How can you track this? How can a normal guy that comes from Holland and want to buy a house here can come here and do the greatest investment? He can't, right? You will try to, and but it's really hard. So if you don't have proper knowledge and proper advice, that's why we explained this. And by the way, we did this because we constantly being asked, obviously, by our clients, and that's why the first phase of the presentation, you explained, you have to have a plan, you have to have a budget first, you have to sort of know what you want, right? And don't come here and with this illusion. These people have this illusion, like, oh no, I'll go there and I'll 500,000 euros, I can just go there and and I'll do the biggest deal ever. You could do it if you know what you're doing, if you have people who know what they're doing. If not, you're probably going to lose money, right? And that happens in different levels, right? So that's something that it's good to explain to people and to explain. And of course, we have our services, but we created these services out of people that we know here, that they actually contacted us in the beginning because they knew that we were locals. We lived in Australia. She's an architect, I'm a builder, and because they needed help. And then with Jaco, of course, we started to do these webinars and everything just to try to educate people, because it's so unfair, right? So yeah, I think that's it for now, and then we can go to our Q&A. What do you think, Jaco? You want to comment?
I think it's great that you shared some of the mission, why we are doing this. But thanks for that, because that wasn't in the presentation yet. Very good. For everyone that has been listening until now and is not live here, the video will stop. Please, if you heard anything that you found interesting, give us a like, because that helps to share this mission of us, the mission that Miguel just shared with you. And then now, please, let's start with the Q&A.